We are going to be talking about warm ups today. I just had my first warm up on Twitter Live. We are now on Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. So, just like when you go to the golf course, you want to make sure you warm up. I figured before we went live on three platforms, we'd warm up on one. So, excited to get into this podcast today. Just in case you guys aren't aware, we're starting to do a lot of these live. So, definitely be following on our social media across all of our pages, YouTube, LinkedIn, X, Instagram, both myself, Mr. Fantastic P4S, but also P4S Golf. That way, you guys will know when we're going live, so you can participate, put out questions in the live chat that we have going on, and be a part of the show. That's what I'm the most excited for as we're doing these, is that getting to get you guys questions and kind of address them live for everyone. Because if you have that question, I guarantee you there's at least one other person who has that question as well. So let's talk about the big three misconceptions when it comes to warm ups in golf. These, I wouldn't say they infuriate or make me mad. I think some of the, the misconceptions around strength training make me mad. The ones around warm ups make me giggle because it's just funny. Some of the stuff that's out there when it comes to warming up. The first one is that static stretching is the way to go. Our calisthenics class back in grade school, the gym teacher was right, and that's what we should do. And it couldn't be farther from the truth. So it actually was. There was a really cool study that was done on golfers um, that I've talked about this a number of times before. But basically, what the study did is that took, let's say we'll just use round numbers. 30 golfers. I forget the exact number, but 30 golfers went out and they hit golf balls. Let's say today, right? And they all just, they just hit golf balls. They tracked their club head speeds. Then they came back tomorrow, so the next day, and they split the 30 golfers. And remember, these are made up numbers. I'm just using this for ease of math into three groups. So like 10 golfers did the same thing they did yesterday, right? They just went and hit balls. The next 10 golfers did static stretching. So, bend down, touch your toes, hold it for 30 seconds. Just your basic, get into a position, pull the arm across your chest, hold it 30 seconds, switch to the other side, right? The third group did a soft tissue warm up. So they foam rolled, think lacrosse balls, softballs. So they did tissue work. And then they went and did a dynamic warm up. So multifaceted, multi joint, right? So think of like a lunge with a twist, a squat, that's moving your, maybe they had a band, and they would rotate when they squatted, or, even just a squat in itself is multi joint because you got your knees, your hips, your ankles, everything's moving. And obviously, the goal of a warm up, right? So this would be the hint of which group did the best. The goal of the warm up is to increase your internal body temperature because muscles are like silly putty. And if they are warm, they are more flexible, they're more pliable. If you put silly putty in the freezer, it ain't going to stretch. So our muscles are very similar in that way. So the warmer we can get our internal body temperature, the more loose we are going to be. And anybody who has played in 45 and raining and then gone and played in 85 and sunny knows you feel way looser in 85 and sunny. And that's because just the environment's warmer, so your internal temperature is going to be like the muscles will be warmer, looser, more naturally. So interesting results from the study is the group that did the same thing both days, just hit balls. Obviously, they stayed the same. The group that did static stretching actually swung the golf club slower than if they just hit golf balls to warm up. And the group that did the tissue work and the dynamic warm up actually went faster than hitting golf balls. So warming up the correct way actually directly impacts your club head speed, it's just, to me, I just kind of laugh whenever somebody's like, oh, I got to go stretch before I play. Now, if you do tissue work, dynamic warm up, and then you want to do a couple static stretches just because it feels good, by all means, there's nothing wrong with that because you've done the prep work of what actually is going to help you play better first. So that's the first big misconception that I wanted to touch on, for all of you guys. The second is that hitting golf balls is the full warm up. Now, I play competitively. All of anybody who's watched a professional warm up, like you have a routine. There's a specific like way that you go through the bag to warm up, but I think the key is you're warming up to play. You're not warming your body up. There's a warm up that happens before the warm up, right? So that study I was talking about, doing the dynamic warm up, doing the tissue work, those are the things that should happen before your full swing warm up, because that gets the body ready to perform. You then go and you do the full swing warm up. That's getting a feel for where, the bottom of the swing today, for its tempo. You're just trying to kind of get in the groove of getting the feel of, of your swing for that day, and seeing, is the ball fading today? Is it drawing today? And you're getting ready to play. Your body's already ready. And I think there's oftentimes a confusion or a mix up between warming up your body and warming up to play. Those are two very different things. And the fact of the matter is, if you don't warm your body up before you go to warm up to play, well, then you're essentially trying to do two things at once. Your body's attempting to increase its internal temperature and warm up, while you're also trying to get ready to play. And guess what? If you're ice cold, I mean, you've all taken, all of us golfers have done this. You show up, you don't get a warm up in, you roll out of the car to the first tee. Like, it takes you 3 holes before you find where the bottom of the swing is today, right? Like your first swings are not going to be consistent. So when you're trying to play good golf, obviously having your body ready to go, so that when you do start swinging, your body's moving the same every time, is going to make you perform at a higher level much more consistently. Versus if you come out and you just start whacking balls, your body's ice cold, your body's moving differently every single time, which means you're going to hit the golf ball differently every single time, which means you're not actually warming up to play. You could actually make an argument that you're making it harder to play well, because the swing feels different literally on every single swing. And so it takes you longer to find that quote unquote groove, or that zone. So step one that we need to kind of clear up today: static stretching, definitely not the way to go when it comes to warming up in isolation. You can integrate it if you'd like, but there definitely needs to be tissue work and dynamic warm-ups. Second, if you're hitting balls for your warm-up, sure, but know that that's your warm-up to play. That's not your body warm-up. There needs to be a physical warm-up prior to that for optimal performance. And then let's get to the third. This is probably my favorite, and it's that the warm-up should be exactly the same every single day. Right? So there's a couple factors here. Let's dive into it. First is, let's talk about person to person. Okay. So me to, we got Caleb and Andrew in here with me today. Like, Caleb, Andrew, and myself should all have 3 different workouts or warm-ups before we go play. Obviously, our workouts are going to be different in the gym because we have different needs. Warm-ups are going to be no different, right? So let's say I have bad hips. Let's say Andrew's shoulders aren't great and Caleb's thoracic spine's, not great, right? Well, then my warm-up should be focused more on hip work. Caleb is going to be focused more on thoracic work, right? Whatever those differences that you have are, that's where your focuses should be when it comes to the physical warm-up. I'm going to need to spend a lot more time on my hips to get them working consistently and where I need them to be in the golf swing than Caleb will. But Caleb's going to need to spend way more time on his thoracic spine if I already turned 70 degrees both ways. No need to work on that for me. Like, I'm good, right? But at the end of the day, all 3 of us want to arrive at that tee to warm up for play, with our bodies in the same spot where we're ready to go. Our body's as prepped as it can be to be as consistent as it can be. So that's like the first part of this. The second part of this is, like, do I need to warm up the same way every single time I go out and play? And this brings in the importance of assessing consistently and knowing where you're at and not guessing. So we have the home assessment, which is by far and away the greatest tool for any golfer out there to understand their body. I'm sure we'll put it in the show notes, a link to it if anybody wants it. But I retest myself every 2 weeks. We retest all of our clients every 2 weeks because the body changes that quickly, right? If we have, we've had clients who they have to go to Asia for a week, right? Well, when they're on a plane that long and traveling that much, when they get back, their body is different than when they left. And so that warm up for that guy today, when he gets off the airplane, likely is going to have to be different than before he went on that long trip. And it's no different for myself or for any of you guys. So as your body changes, your workout and your workouts obviously, and also your warm-ups need to evolve with that. If your hips, you start out doing a program and your hips suck, well, then your warm-ups obviously should be focused pre-round a lot of the hip work. Now let's say you clean up the hips and they're really, really good, and 8 weeks later, well, now maybe your warm up is more balanced, or maybe now hips are actually the best part of you, and your shoulders are lagging. So maybe there needs to be a little bit more work on the shoulder. Maybe you're struggling with being steep and coming over the top. Therefore, you need to spend more time on your trail right shoulder and even on your lead. That's if you're a right-handed player, your trail right shoulder and your lead left hip. Right, it'd be flipped if you're a lefty. Right, so that's where there may even be specific warm-up focuses that you're working on based on what you're attempting to do in the golf swing. So this is a kind of this is probably my favorite of the three kind of misconceptions that are out there, because there's not only a discussion to be had about you today versus you tomorrow versus you in 6 months, and how does that warm-up need to evolve and change with you, but there's also discussion around me versus the next guy to me on the range, and there's variability there as well too. And at the end of the day, unless we're assessing, we're just guessing. So I can't stress this enough. The biggest gift that I can ever give to any of you listening right now is that you guys really take the assessment, understand where you're at, and kind of how to do it. We got from Gridiron here. We actually got a question. This is awesome. What's your favorite hip warm-up exercise if you could only pick one before you play around? So this is actually it's actually a loaded question. I don't know if you know that, but it would depend on how I'm feeling that day. So if I could only pick one, and I did heavy squats and deadlifts yesterday, and I feel like my tissue's tight, I'm going to get on a lacrosse ball, and I'm going to go up into, actually you guys can see me here, I'm going to get up into my glute med. So if this is kind of my hip pocket, my bone, and my kind of greater trochanter, my hip bone's right there, I'm going to come up behind it, up in like belt line level, and I'm going hard on my glute med, because I know for me, this is where understanding your body, for me, and honestly for most people, this is pretty applicable, that area will get locked, and if that gets locked down, then your internal rotation in your hip is going to get locked down, so you're actually going to have decreased ability to rotate into your trail side and into your lead side. Now, if I didn't lift heavy yesterday, and I'm just coming in feeling pretty good, and then my favorite hip exercise is probably going to be a 90-90. So I'm going to be sitting on the ground with my feet up. Actually, well, I'll just try to talk loud. I'll show you guys on live here. So I'm coming down on the ground here, and I'm just going to drop my knees down side to side, right? So I'm going back and forth, right? If I'm really tight, I can put my hands behind, right? It makes it a little bit easier going back and forth, right? But the more advanced would be having my hands up, and I'm dropping my knees down, trying to keep my shoulders squared up front. But so those would be my two. So great question. But if I have to only pick one, and I don't feel like I lifted heavy or have tightness in my hips, I'm going with the 90-90. If I did lift heavy yesterday and I'm feeling like that tissue's kind of locked down, 100% I'm going to the lacrosse ball. I'm going up into that glute med. The other area I'd probably go would be the TFL, which would be the muscle. It's kind of in the front of the hip, kind of under the hip pocket here. So if you're sitting in a chair listening right now, maybe you're driving, you basically would put like your thumbs like just in your hip pockets, and that's that muscle right on the top of your thigh, just inside that hip bone. That and the glute med are the two that get really locked down that will actually limit your internal rotation. So great question, dude. That was awesome. So that's what I had for today, guys. Those are the big three misconceptions. That static stretching, doing it in isolation, waste of time. Please build it in with other things, particularly the dynamic warm-ups and tissue work. Just showed you guys too, for those of you watching live. And then you got hitting golf balls is the warm-up to play. That is not the warm-up for your body. There needs to be a warm-up that you do for your body prior, and then that your warm-up really needs to change and modify every time that you go out if your body has changed. And that's the value of that home assessment, which we'll make sure we throw that link in the show notes, so that if you guys want to grab that, see where your body's at today, make your workout, figure out what you need to do, redo it every couple weeks, and as your body changes, change the work, change the warm-up. So thanks as always for hanging out with me here on the Bomb Squad, and also for all of you guys live, thanks for hanging out, and thanks for the questions, and definitely be checking out social, as we'll be announcing when we're doing more of these live events as we go. So thanks as always for hanging out with me here on the Golf Fitness Bomb Squad. We'll catch you in the next episode.